George saw his father's unfinished yogurt and reached out to take it. Unexpectedly, his father snatched it away and sternly warned him not to touch the food he had eaten. What the boy didn't know was that his father was protecting him. John was an ordinary worker who earned a meager income by cleaning windows. After his divorce, he and his son George relied on each other. His only wish was to raise his son to adulthood. However, a sudden piece of news shattered John's plan. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer and had less than a month to live. Upon hearing the bad news, John was nearly broken. It didn't matter if he died, but how could his son survive without a father? After much consideration, he decided to do one thing for his son before death came. John asked the community to find a family to adopt George. Soon, a wealthy man came to the door. The man not only owned a large estate of several thousand square meters but also a luxurious villa. After a conversation, John found that the couple loved children and their eyes were full of affection for them. He nodded in satisfaction and immediately decided to entrust them. However, the man said he already had a son and would treat George like his own. But upon learning that the other party had a child, John firmly refused the offer because he was afraid his son would be treated differently. John returned to his room in disappointment, looking at his young son with a heart full of bitterness. As the days passed, his condition worsened. Even drinking water became very difficult. It seemed that death was approaching. For his son's future, John endured the pain and tried to earn more money. However, the pain in his body made him nearly faint, so he had to rest for a while. But the boss thought he was slacking off and not only cut his salary in half but also fired him. John was furious when he got home. He was about to die. Why did he still have to endure such difficulties? He bought several boxes of rotten eggs and threw them all at the rich man's windows, not sparing even his Lamborghini. Feeling a little relieved, he then left gracefully. In the following days, he spent as much time as possible with his son. Seeing the pure smile on George's face, John wished time could stand still at this moment. George found a dead bug and asked curiously, "Dad, why isn't it moving?" John thought for a long time and then told him, "This bug is dead and won't move anymore." He wanted to teach his son the meaning of death, as he would soon face it himself. The pain never left John, but he wouldn't give up until he had arranged for his son. George soon noticed his father's abnormal behavior and thoughtfully poured him a glass of water, believing that it would make him better. John took his son to the second home, which was a couple of teachers. Their gentle and refined demeanor impressed John. When they saw John and the child, they were moved and immediately said, "We will take good care of him, give him the best education, and accompany him to grow up healthily." However, George's eyes were fixed on a toy bear beside them. The man immediately understood and handed it to him. The couple seemed to love children and had even prepared a crib in advance for George's arrival. John was very satisfied. Just as they were about to leave, the woman stopped them, hinting that she didn't want George to take the toy. John was filled with disappointment. How could such a stingy family provide a better life for his son? On the way home, George asked his father what adoption meant. John wanted to hide it from him, but seeing his son's innocent face, he still told him the truth. George thought his father didn't want him anymore and threw a tantrum when they got home, believing that this would make his father not send him away. Seeing his son in such a state, John couldn't bear to tell him the truth. Instead, he bought a small cake to ease his guilt. George put 33 candles on the cake because he remembered that his father was 33 years old. Then he added one more, hoping that his father would still be around next year. But as days passed, John's health deteriorated. He could no longer walk in a straight line. He knew his time was running out, so he sold his beloved electric scooter and decided to spend his last days making his son happy. He took his son to ride bumper cars, go on the carousel, and swing on the swings. They ate sweet cotton candy, and John tried his best to make up for lost time. He hoped that George would have a wonderful childhood even after he was gone. A few days before his death, the community found a single mother for John. She couldn't have children due to her health condition, and her greatest wish was to adopt a child. John's arrival was undoubtedly a ray of hope for her, and her eyes were filled with longing. John was worried that his son might not accept her, as he had never been around anyone else since childhood. But John knew that she might be the only one he could entrust his son to. When they got home, John made a time capsule for his son to open when he turned 18. He put the 35th candle in it as well. How he wished he could watch his son grow up healthy, get married, and have children, and even be a grandfather. But these things that were so easy for ordinary people were beyond his reach. George seemed to sense something and didn't sleep all night. On the way, John thought for a long time and finally made up his mind. He led his son to the single mother. He forced a smile and said goodbye, though his heart was filled with reluctance. There was no other choice.